John Nada. Welcome to the Days of Thunder and 2018. This program has been going 2 years strong now. It's hard to believe that we have been airing for that long, and I appreciate all the support and everything that I've gotten from you guys. You know, the older that I get, the more that I realize that I'm just not that interested in relationships. I'm just not that interested in really being around women in general. And it's not because of the red pill rage. It's not because I hate women. It's a sure sign that the red pill rage has subsided. And it's simply because their presence, their companionship has become more of an annoyance and a nuisance. And again, I don't know if it's old age. I don't know if it's the understanding that I've come to over the years. It's hard to believe that, you know, back in my college days, back probably not all that long ago, maybe even 5 years ago, there was still a lot of blue pill thought left in my head, like the vestigial limbs of a snake. It's hard to believe that that was how I viewed the world, how I thought of, relationships and the interactions between the sexes, the genders, and to come, totally 180 into knowledge that I didn't even know existed. And we use the Matrix reference quite a bit, but it is, in many ways, it's like becoming Neo. We were the collared shirt, tie wearing, unaware, go to work and put in our 8 to 10 hours, our 40 hours a week. And we've gone from that and become these free agents, so to speak. And freedom has become at the top of the list. And so that got me thinking today. I was with a group of people, and it was just a gossip fest. And it's interesting how backstabbing and gossipy that men as well as women can be. And maybe it's the feminization, the trying to dilute masculinity, the trying to dilute the free spirit, the pioneering spirit, the spirit that took us west, the spirit that took us into Alaska. Somebody shared a great video today of a time lapse of a man building a cabin on the Mgtow Reddit. It's this diluting of that and the feminization of men to an extent, and just how gossipy and how concerned some people are with what other people do with their lives, and just how critical some people are of others, not willing to admit that they themselves make mistakes just like anybody else. And that got me thinking about how things kind of operate sometimes with Mgtow. Many of us are so critical of the blue-pilled man. We're so, we look down at our nose at the unawakened one, the non-sublime one, the non-Buddha one, failing to realize that we at one point were in their position, failing to see that we were once in that ignorance. The trail that we traversed was once a brushland, and we had to blaze that trail. And so that's something that I would like to cultivate in this new year, is this idea of compassion. And just compassion overall, but particularly compassion for the guys that they don't have the knowledge that we have. Now, I would be the first to tell you that it's foolish to try to lead a horse to water when it doesn't want water. I will be the first to tell you that you must experience a lot of the truths of Mgtow. Even though one can teach the principles of Mgtow, it does not coalesce, it does not come into the consciousness, it does not resonate with one until they have experienced and had that aha moment and seen and put the pieces together. I would not have believed. In fact, even though I had access to many of the teachings and videos, it still took time for me to see these things in my own experience and in my own life. That being said, we have to be mindful of ourselves. We cannot be dragged back into that world. We cannot be, we can't lose the position that we have attained at this point. This enlightenment, we cannot go back. But at the same time, we cannot forget who we are and where we started out and where it is that we came from. And so we then must have that same compassion that others showed us in order to awaken us. Not with a splash of water from, a splash of cold water on the face, but rather a slight nudging, a slight awake, 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 O sleeper, awake. It cannot be fast. It cannot be aggressive, cannot be brutal. It must be little by little over time. Plant the seed, my brothers, and have compassion for those that still have the blinders on. Even the wild Mustang looks upon the horse drawing the carriage and looks upon him with a sense of pity, but also a mix of that and compassion. For we were once in their shoes. For we were once bridled to a carriage, but to be driven with the whip no more. Now, that being said, I've been kicking around these ideas of cultural revolution and a renaissance. And what I mean by that is a cultural revolution in your own life and a renaissance, a personal renaissance, whatever that means to you. That cultural revolution, that renaissance to me means I would like to spend more of my time cultivating self-discipline, mindfulness, cultivating positivity, realizing that there is negativity in the world, realizing that there are a lot of shades of gray in the world, but to not buy into the narrative that this is all it is. To seek upward and onward that which is out there that is uplifting to the spirit, mind, body, and soul. So a cultural revolution for me is a mind, body, soul balance. Eating good food, exercising. You would be amazed at how, no drug, no amount of alcohol, nothing feels better than that feeling of having worked out and the elation that you get from that, and being in good health, being able to go out here and just your body works in the way that it's meant to work. The fresh drink of some nice cold water after a workout, and eating cleanly. I mean, it clears it. There's so many things that it does for your physicality, but also your mental state and spiritual state. Going out there and engaging in hobbies that engage your mind, such as with me, the learning of Dutch, the continuance in that. I had this sad thought the other day. I started learning Dutch in 2014. En ik spreek dan een beetje Nederlands, but it's niet so good. So I could have been a lot better had I really disciplined myself and really just spent a lot more time towards it. I wish I would have. That's 4 years of. I took 4 years of Spanish, and I'm somewhat able to. I mean, I can understand conversations rather well, but I imagine, man, in 4 years, where could I have really been at with my Dutch studying and everything else if I had really disciplined myself to do it? And then that spiritual aspect of life, whatever that means for you, and I'm not talking about religion per se. And for some people, that does mean going to church, being a part of an organized body of believers, and there's nothing wrong with that. Again, Mgtow is about where you want to go. Mgtow is about your self-discovery, self-evaluation, and that journey that you take. For me, the spiritual side of things, I would really like to do more outdoors activities, go hiking, camping, spend more time in nature. It's something that I've loved and enjoyed ever since I was a child. And to just be more out in the wilderness and see what all is out there beyond the concrete jungle that surrounds us in our daily lives. I listened to a talk the other day talking about the second death. The second death being the dying to desire. And I think that most people never truly break free from the consumer culture and the base existence. What's it all about? I think most people never see beyond the 3 square meals that they got to eat every day to continue life processes. They don't see beyond the having to go to the store, go to work. If you have kids, take kids to their functions. If you're married, having to do all of that. And even if you're Mgtow, a lot of Mgtow do not see beyond the corporal that is in front of us, the corporal world. And I don't mean that as some, out there woo-woo, new agey type idea, but I think that a lot of people are tied to their material possessions. They're tied to ideas about the way that they're supposed to live their life. I mean, isn't that what the Mgtow philosophy addresses to an extent? The idea that we don't have this blueprint, the idea that we can do whatever it is we want with our life, that we are the artisan, that we are the alchemist, and we can take this life and do pretty much whatever it is we could conceive of in our mind with it. So I think we have to have that second death. And I think a lot of us Mgtow have had that second death to this world, that second death to this culture, that second death to the ideas that have pervaded and invaded our minds since we were old enough to understand language. And that is where Mgtow comes in. That is where we break free from these ideas that we've been given, these roles that we've been given, and we decide for ourselves what life is about, what makes it meaningful for us. And for many of us, that means a lonely existence, or rather, I should say, a loner's existence, because it's possible to be alone but not be lonely. And I find that oftentimes I am a loner. I've been a loner most of my life, and I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that idea. It doesn't bother me. And it's not because I'm so much more intelligent or so much more spiritual or so much better than anyone else, but it's because of the willingness, which I feel is probably something that is common in and amongst a lot of Mgtow, that willingness to take a step back and look at where you're at, look inside of yourself, and have some introspection. It's never really been what's outside of us. It's always been within us. All the tools are there. And again, going back to the question of a lot of people looking for fulfillment in a relationship with a woman. And for me, anymore in my old age, women have become like a nice boat or a Lamborghini. You can appreciate its beauty and form and its function, but I would never want to own a boat or a Lamborghini simply because the entry-level cost and upkeep is too great for it to really merit any enjoyment beyond the cost. I can still enjoy life, and I don't have any of those things. I can still enjoy life, but I don't have the passion and desire for something like a boat and a Lamborghini. Like anything else, the newness and novelty of it wears off. And at the end of the day, it ties you down and leaves you less free. And at the end of the day, this is how many of us feel about relationships and about marriage and everything else. Whatever possible value that it may have is outweighed by the cost that it would be to start and keep up. Look at Aziz Ansari, look at Brad Pitt, look at Johnny Depp, look at all of these celebrities. Their stature, their status, their power, their influence, their wealth, their riches. None of this was enough to stop the inevitable. None of this was enough to stop the divorce or to stop the false rape allegation or the false sexual harassment allegation. So if none of it was enough for these men, why would it be enough for the average guy out there? Look around you, brothers. Don't look at what they say, but look at what they do. For actions always speak louder than words. But Mgtow have the peace of mind to know that their peace is a true and lasting peace, one that comes from within and not without. And with that being said, brothers, you're free to do as you're told.